Welcome back to another RacerX track examination. My name is Donnie, and today I'm joined on the phone by PRMX Kawasaki's Cade Clason to talk about this weekend's Triple Crown track map for the second stop in Anaheim this season. Before we get into the details, I just want to mention that I talked to Corey with Dirtworks this morning, and he said the only major change to the layout is the finish line jump. As it was drawn, the transfer across the start straight is simply too wide, so they moved it back. The takeoff of the finish line jump is now where the landing shows, and the landing is across the smaller white striped lane immediately before that 90-degree left. Shout out to Stonerider and the Aerial Racing League for providing this MXBikes first-person footage for this video. Cade, before we start recording, you already mentioned just how long this track looks on paper and that we should be comfortably into the 1-minute lap times. We have two relatively long and big rhythm lanes fit into this baseball stadium that are obviously going to be hotspots during the racing. Do you think we're going to see a lot of big rhythms and quads this weekend?
So far this year, they've built everything really pretty spaced apart. And that's kind of why we don't really see quads like off four singles that often, because it requires so much speed to do it that they don't really like us doing them. They want to slow the tracks down and stuff like that. So depending on how they build that rhythm, you might see a quad, but I doubt it.
This will be the first time we sand this year, but luckily it's just a little tiny section. Do you think it's going to be a madhouse as normal, or is this track so busy that the sand's just going to blend in?
Yeah, when it's like a fast sweeper like that, it's not that big of a deal. Like, you're going to land off the triple and basically go through it wide open. The only time it's kind of a crapshoot is when it's a 180 and you have to slow down and the sand's super deep and they're constantly changing like inside outside berms trying to make it even. This one will most likely just be a couple singles on the inside with a berm around the outside and you can just rip it. So, but how they build that sand and then moving around to that next corner, how they build those two sections could really dictate how fast, those two short straights are. Because if you come out of the sand fast, you're going to come into that bowl. And then if you notice on the exit of that bowl turn, there's a little lip on the left side. So it's almost like you're going to be able to double over that single onto the start straight. Where if you cut it down, you're going to miss the takeoff and then you're going to have to jump out onto the start straight. So those two sections, it's going to be interesting to see how they shape up.
So obviously having the crisscrossing back across the start 4 times is what's going to add a lot of seconds to a lap time. But are you concerned at all with this many laps of the top 44 guys crossing on the start straight because you guys have to make 3 gate drops each? Does that really mess with the start dirt, or is it not really an issue?
No, it's not really an issue. It's you won't really notice it too much, especially not if we're going to jump over it in a couple spots. Like you really won't even, it won't even bother you, because the nice part is for the 250 guys, they get a groomed track every time they go out there. The 450 guys are the ones that get screwed. So because the 250 their whole main event, and then the 450s go, and then they prep the track, and it's like that every time. So, but no, I don't think that little bit of just riding across the straightaway affects anybody too much.
Speaking of the condition of the track, is there a significant advantage to going in that earlier session qualifying before the track gets like super beat down?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think people realize how much of an advantage like 250C practice is in the third session. Like, if you're a good rider and you get put in 250C practice, like, it's pretty easy to get a lap in that can put you like top 15, because you can just rip bolt turns, do jumps that like you literally cannot do later in the day. And then, yeah, the 450A practice just destroys the track so much. If you're like out on the track, you can obviously ride and do certain things at the beginning, but by the end, it's just so freaking hammered that you have to completely change your lines. And I think that's why you don't see huge variances in times in the 450 class, where sometimes the 250 class just gets these ripper times because the track's so much better.
So as a guy that qualifies right around that 18 cutoff, I think A1 you were in the top 18, and in San Diego you were just out. How do you change your strategy in qualifying to do you try harder to get that top 18, or do you still just kind of go out there and do your original plan and hope for the best?
No, you gotta add some near death experiences in there. Uh, yeah, if your limit is one a lap, you gotta like up it to two, trying to just find a little bit. The Triple Crown LCQs suck. They're stressful and it can literally ruin your whole day. Um, if you don't obviously get to race, because I mean, in reality, you don't even get to race. You just ride during the day, and it's basically a whole different type of event. You don't get contingency if you don't race in the night program and stuff like that. So it's stressful. You really want to be in right out of qualifying, and I've only ever done it once, so it's not an easy task by any means.
Would you say this is the most pressure that you face every season, or the Triple Crowns?
The most pressure in qualifying, yeah. I mean, there's so many good privateers right now that qualifying isn't a huge deal. It's more or less comes down to the start in your heat race and like how you come out, and you can really make or break your night by having a good or bad heat race. 10th place in your heat race on a normal night sets you up good for the LCQ, but crashing out of your heat race can really set you up poorly for the LCQ and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure on qualifying at these types of events. I mean, I wouldn't say like riding around in fourth on the last lap in an LCQ kind of pressure, but it's a gnarly pressure for sure.
Do you have any preference for baseball stadiums or football stadiums? This year we only have what I think 3 races in a baseball stadium, but they seem to be the more technical designs.
Yeah, the baseball stadiums are nice just because the tracks are bigger. Um, I think I think there's room for change in the future for small football stadiums, kind of like Salt Lake and Nashville, and like really small football stadiums. I think at some point they're going to have to make a change design wise to be able to accommodate a track that's a little bit longer. Um, just because these dudes are going so fast that we can't be doing 40-second lap times on a supercross track. It's really just it's not smart for anybody. Um, that's why the baseball stadiums are just so much better. You can get closer to a minute all the time. And when the track's a minute long for these long main events, it makes the track last so much longer and makes the racing a lot better.
Are you the kind of guy that when the track maps come out, you look through all 17 of them and get like hyped on it or try to pick out lines? Or do you just wait until you kind of show up because Dirtworks could change it, the sizes could be different? How do you go about planning out with track maps?
Um, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter to me, honestly, because like you can look at a track map and there's 3 different ways they can really build every single obstacle. And if they change it even slightly, it'll dictate whether you can four over a table or you can quad off a table or certain things, how you can even do them. So without seeing it in person, it just doesn't make any sense. Like we've in the past built replica tracks, but to be honest, like the only thing that's similar is maybe the corners. And like if there's a flat corner and being able to practice like inside roll or just simple things like that, like there's no possible way to replicate rhythm sections and stuff like that, because just changing one face, 10 degrees of an angle completely changes what you're able to do in that rhythm section, rhythm wise.
Alrighty, Cade. Well, thanks for jumping on and talking the Anaheim 2 track map. Obviously, good luck this weekend with the Triple Crown. Do you have any goals for yourself for the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to, make a main event. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? We've put in a lot of work and it's just hasn't gone to plan so far. So I mean, that's the first goal, is just get in there and get back to work. Right. I feel like my workload is cut in half when I don't make main events, and it's been a shame so far. I don't think it's from a lack of effort, but it's just a lack of result. So gotta get back in those things before you can get to work on the real goals.
Cool. Well, thanks, Cade. Good luck this weekend.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.